right. GM. GM, I'm here with Digital Oil. Today we are going to talk about Prop 238, maybe a couple other things, functional props. Digital Oil, GM, welcome.
GM, good to meet you, Lil Panda. I've seen you around a bunch, but we've never gotten a chance to speak.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I saw you posting around looking for some feedback on 238, which is your prop. And I figured I'd have you on. I'd kind of explore the prop, go over what's important, and maybe take some questions if anyone comes on, or talk about nouns.
Sure,
So
pleasure to be here.
yeah, thank you. So I've got 238 up on the screen here. Um, yeah, and I took a look over it, and I think I mostly understand it. But this is one of those props that's fairly, you got to really read it to sort of understand. So I wonder if you had to give like the Twitch like one paragraph summary of what this is, what's this prop about?
Yeah, sure. We can go much deeper, but the kind of elevator pitch is it. Yeah, what the prop enables, once developed and deployed, is having a immutable contract, trustless new primitive for the DAO that allows, or actually two separate contracts, which allow for distribution of NFTs in the Nouns DAO treasury. And this is any, arbitrary NFTs, any ERC 721 at random. And the cool thing is that the methodology invented here allows for a new governance mechanism. And basically what it does is it allows for, it's not just a binary outcome where either the prop passes or it doesn't. If the prop passes, it does a calculation at execution time based on the vote counts. So it takes into account for votes against and abstains, and does a calculation that the proposer chooses to calculate how many NFTs to distribute. And for funding, it's kind of the same idea. The second contract allows proposers to propose a funding range. So not a specific amount to be funded, but say I'm willing to do some work for a bare minimum of 30 ETH, for example, but I'd like to be funded up to 50 ETH, depending on how popular the prop ends up being at vote time. So basically it takes the votes, if it passes, of course, at execution time, the vote's popularity, does a calculation with for votes against and abstains, and determines how much to fund the proposer. So the more, the more unanimous it is, it'll fund the upper part of the range. And if it barely passes, it'll fund the lower part of the range. That's kind of a rough idea of how this works. You're on mute.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking over this. When you say when you're talking about a range, are you talking about ERC20 type payments, or you're saying like a range of NFTs would be funded for a proposal?
So both. It's two separate contracts. One does it for NFTs, and the other one does it for ETH. But in theory, you could do it for any ERC20 as well.
Okay, so let's that's a great point to kind of double click into. Can we kind of explore both ways? Can we start with NFTs, and can we just kind of talk through sort of an example of what a proposal
Sure.
would look like?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll take you. If you want, I can give you a bit of a backstory and what kind of motivated me, and or do you want an example first?
Actually, backstory is better. Let's hear that.
Okay, great. Yeah. So for Prop 199, I deployed a contract that did a kind of first time experiment for the DAO. It did a random distribution of Nouns vision glasses that were sitting in the treasury. There had been a prop prior to that, which distributed or allowed distribution basically of chunks of the vision glasses for proliferation purposes to different entities, associated to nouns. So I thought, okay, wouldn't it be cool if nouners themselves proliferated nouns via the glasses? So why not do a random distribution of the glasses to nouners? There weren't enough glasses in the treasury to do it for every nouner or for every noun, let's say. So I proposed to do a distribution of 50 glasses, chosen at random. And the cool part about this experiment was that we were, for the first time ever in a nouns prop, asking Chainlink verifiable random function to inject a random number into our contract at execution time, and based on that random number, decide which wallets we're going to get the glasses. And that prop went well. We did that distribution, and then I said, okay, what about other ERC 721s in the treasury? Like, for example, we have little nouns. If we wanted to, put the little nouns to use, distribute them, and have them, participate in governance because they're kind of just sitting there doing nothing. What if I propose a distribution of little nouns? And the first question that came to mind was, okay, but how many? Because it's a semi-controversial topic. Some people think maybe we shouldn't distribute anything from the treasury. Some people don't want to distribute little nouns. Some people want to distribute them all. So how do I know as a proposer how many to propose distribution for? And that's when I came up with the idea of functional props. And functional props is kind of this umbrella, like big superset of possibilities. But for NFTs specifically, I said, what if we're able to distribute NFTs and choose the number to distribute at execution time, so after vote already took place, and base it on the popularity of the vote. So, for example, say I don't know how many, in the example of little nouns, I don't know how many to propose distribution for, so I propose a range. And I say, okay, let's distribute between, we have like 700 or so. Let's distribute between 50 and 300. If the vote doesn't pass, nothing happens, obviously. If the vote barely passes, closer to 50 little nouns will be distributed at random to nouners. And if the vote is, close to unanimous, then we'll be closer to the upper part of the range. So 300 will be distributed. And then I said, actually, I'll continue telling the story if that part is kind of clear. Is that
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, I follow you so far.
Great. So then I said, why stop at NFTs? What about ETH that we distribute out of the treasury? And obviously, we're not distributing this ETH at random. We are sending it to proposers. And I said, what about, okay, so functional NFT distribution. What about functional funding? What if we could do price discovery of what a prop is kind of really worth to the DAO at vote time? And instead of doing an off-chain, like back and forth between proposer and nouners, where you don't really get much attention because it's off-chain, right? You get all the attention on chain. So why not do it on chain and take like a on-chain average of the DAO's opinion and fund the proposer based on how important the proposal is for the DAO? So an example in that case would be similar to what I mentioned in the beginning. Say I'm willing to do some work for a bare minimum of 30 ETH, but it could be worth up to 50 ETH, depending on how important it is to the DAO. Like I would rather, if I didn't have functional funding, what I would do is I'd probably propose something like 45 ETH, right? But I am willing to do it for 30 if it's a proposal that maybe isn't extremely popular, but that the DAO wants. So instead of proposing for 45 ETH, I propose for a range between 30 and 50. And depending on how the DAO votes, I get funded between 30 and 50. So the idea here is basically doing on-chain price discovery and optimizing and making a more efficient use of the treasury.
Yep. I follow you. I understand it.
And
Uh,
then if we want to take it further,
yep,
if you're ready,
let's go.
you're okay. Let's do it. Yeah. So now I get into functional NFT distribution and functional funding are subsets of a bigger set that I call functional props. And this proposal, the one we're talking about today, doesn't go into this next step I'm going to mention, but I just kind of want to open listeners' minds to what's possible and how this kind of opens a new toolbox for a bunch of new things to be discovered in time. And the superset, which I call functional props, is what if I could take other inputs, like more structured inputs and a wider range of inputs at vote time. So imagine if I could take voting reasons as an input and not only do a calculation on for, against, and abstains, but now I can also do a calculation based on a richer input. And I take, for example, I could take a literal on-chain average of if people were to input, say, numbers into their voting reason, then I could like average those numbers and make a decision based on those numbers. I could, for example, determine the mint price of a collection the DAO is launching. Like say we're launching a open edition video and I want the DAO to determine at vote time what the starting price should be. And you could go into richer and richer inputs. You could even go into, and this is much, much deeper, but you could also enter, say, voters could enter functions. Like I want the voters to enter what functions I should use to do certain calculations. And then you can imagine a contract kind of parsing those functions and doing work using those functions. So as I said, this is new tech that is really like a toolbox. And I don't think I've been able to visualize not even 1% of what's possible. I can imagine I compare it to like when Apple released the iOS, or in that moment it was called the iPhone SDK. We couldn't imagine all the apps that were going to come out. We couldn't imagine that there was going to be a metal detector invented, that there was going to be Uber, thanks to the iPhone SDK. And I kind of see this the same way. I'm like, I want to put it out there. I'll put it to use myself, but I feel like a lot of new ideas will come now that we have like we will have a more powerful, governance tooling, basically.
Yeah, I want to keep going along those lines. I want to get right back to this, but first I want to just make sure I understand everything about your prop. So this is just paying for the development of this, right? This isn't enabling anything. This isn't auditing anything. This prop is just funding you to develop these ideas, right?
This makes it into a working product. So specifically, what I will deliver is a generalized version of what I did for Nouns vision glasses, meaning you'll be able to do a random distribution of any ERC 721 that's sitting in the treasury today or anytime in the future. You could do multiple distribution rounds if you wanted. So you could do like say 50 today, and then propose another distribution of 100 of that NFT next month, and also a front end to be able to do the claims of those NFTs. And this contract is kind of a much more efficient and bigger version of what I did for Vision, basically. And for the functional funding, what I'll deliver is a contract that that allows anybody to propose a funding range and be funded based on that funding range.
Yeah. Can you?
So the way it would actually work, to kind of go into the functional funding like flow, is I would make a proposal, and the transaction that I would build would basically be a transaction where I first send the maximum. So say I want to be funded between 30 and 50, going back to that example. I would ask the Nouns DAO Treasury to send 50 ETH, which is the max in the range, to the functional funding contract. That would be the first transaction. and then I would ask, and then I would say, I want the prop to fund between 30 and 50 ETH, and I would also tell it how to do the calculation. So we can go into this later, but the proposer can choose among the different ways to make the calculation of how to select basically the number in the range. And then what the contract would do is it would receive the 50 ETH, it would do the calculation, and then it would send the result of the calculation, say 35 ETH to the proposer, and whatever is left over as change sent back to the Nouns DAO treasury.
Could you take me through the Nouns Vision transactions?
Yeah, sure. Are you showing them there?
I don't know where to find them.
Let's see. You want me to share my screen?
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Let me find it first.
And that was proposal 199, right?
That's right. Okay, here we go. You see my screen, right?
Yep. I got you live here.
Okay, so this is the Nouns Vision VRF distributor is what it's called. You want to go through the transactions, right?
Yeah, just kind of want to see how this worked last time.
Okay, so this is where the contract is deployed. And then after that, the only transactions you see, at least as not internal transactions, is you see all the claims. So these are all the addresses that claimed glasses once they won. Pope, for example, is a noun whale. So he won a bunch of glasses. So in a single claim, he could claim all the glasses he won. And let's see. So if we go to the internal transactions, it's a bit trickier to kind of walk through, but basically what happens is you are getting a call from the contract to what's called the Chainlink VRF coordinator. So you're asking Chainlink to give you back a random number. And then the contract is receiving a random number. I think it's maybe even easier if I go through the code. Do you understand Solidity code, or would this be too crazy?
Let's see it. Why not?
Sure. All right.
And I guess there's pretty widespread agreement that Chainlink random number is truly random.
Yeah. It's common, and it's the only truly verifiable way to get randomness. Anything else you do will always be at risk of nowadays that we are in proof of stake, of basically a validator or a block proposer doing tricky stuff to kind of get what they want in their randomness. So you won't be able to choose specifically what you get, but you'll be able to kind of weed out what you don't want and focus the outcome on something that's better for you. And with Chainlink, you have no control whatsoever. It's coming from a completely external, provably external entity. So yeah, for some reason the code is getting cut off here, so it's kind of, I only have a couple lines that I can show, but here's where you get the answer back from Chainlink. You get a random, basically an array of random words. You select the first one off because you just need one, and then what it does is it takes the how many nouns exist at that moment. It goes through the number of available glasses. So this is the number of glasses that the DAO has approved to distribute. And this is done in a transaction kind of before this. So in our case, it was 50. And then it uses the random number to determine what the winner ID is. So basically which nouner or which owner, the owner of that noun, with the owner of noun with winner ID gets selected as a winner. And then when you do the claim, here, you call claim glasses. It's actually the front end I developed doing this, but you could do this directly if you wanted. You claim glasses, and you're asking, if the claimer has glasses assigned to him or her, then the Nouns Vision batch transfer, which is actually a contract developed for a prop prior to mine, the one that I mentioned, doing batch transfers of vision glasses. I asked that pre-existing contract to do the transfer for us, and you send basically the glasses to the winner, and then emit a glasses claimed event.
And sorry if you just made this clear, but the glasses go from the Nouns DAO treasury directly to the claimer, or do they go through an intermediary step?
They go directly. So it's kind of a two-step process, but with no intermediary really. This contract I'm showing you gets executed when the proposal passes. It calls Chainlink. Chainlink comes back with a number. Based on that number, the contract determines who the winners are. And then the winners look if they won at the front end. It'll show how many glasses they won. Well, actually, let's see it here. Nouns, claims. And the claiming is already closed, but it'll show how many glasses you won here. In this case, I won 0 glasses. And then when you claim, you are asking the contract to the Nouns DAO treasury to send those glasses to you directly, if you have the rights to receive them, of course.
Very cool. And so there were 50 winners.
There were 50 glasses to be distributed, and 12 claimed. This was kind of an experiment. So those 38 that didn't go claimed didn't leave the treasury. They're still there, and you could produce another claim round to distribute those 38, or even more if any more are left in the treasury.
If I'm one of those with a 38 that didn't claim, can I claim it now, or has that window expired?
It's expired, and we make it expire to ensure that those glasses don't go to waste. Because if it were to never expire, then basically nobody else would have claim on those glasses ever, and maybe that claimer is not interested in claiming.
Yeah. Well, it's really fascinating to think about what kind of governance outcomes you could get from something like this. Yeah, I wonder if is it going to be compatible if this prop wins and you develop this, will it be compatible with the builder DAOs?
I need to look at the Builder DAO code because it is a fork. It's a bit different, but at first thought, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't.
Yeah. Just seems like a lot of the governance iteration that you were kind of alluding to, like we're only 1% of the way there. It seems like a lot of that might come at the kind of at the micro level where, there can be just a lot more experiments done more quickly.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm personally like my kind of mission, at least short, medium term in the DAO, I see it is to kind of tinker, to experiment, to kind of advance DAO science, if you want to call it that, for nouns and for all sub DAOs and even for all DAOs to kind of have, for my vision is for nouns to kind of give the ecosystem all these tools, proliferating the brand, of course, in the process, but also just having a richer DAO and Ethereum ecosystem overall.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask you about your noun 526?
Yeah, sure.
This one's yours, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me about this noun. Does anything stick out at you? Were you waiting for a particular trade, or kind of what got you to buy this?
Um, so okay, so kind of this is kind of my noun story, elevator or short version, I guess. I heard about nouns a long time ago. Well, it's only been around for a year and a half, but you know what I mean. And I paid no attention, unfortunately. And then about 6 months ago, no, actually now 8 months ago, for some reason I got pulled back in, and it took it, and maybe 2 months after that, I really started looking at the code and how everything was designed. I fell in love with the elegance in which it was designed, and I was like, this is the perfect incarnation of what a DAO should be. The only thing I was a little bit kind of saddened about is that veto exists, because that's the only thing that makes it not 100% decentralized. And I understand the reason it's there, or it was there and still is there, at least for the time being. But as I said, I just fell in love, and I was like, okay, I need to get a noun. And then I said, maybe I should get two nouns because I want to be able to propose and kind of be independent in that sense. So the first one I got isn't actually not that one. It's the Doom Fence. It came, I think, like a week before. That's the one. Yeah, 5 nouns before. And yeah, something about something like it wasn't maybe the most aesthetically pleasing, but it's something. It reflected some kind of coolness that I really liked, and I decided to go for it. I had bid already on I probably had already bid on like 10 different nouns before that, and I just got outbid, and then this was the one, and I wasn't like as I said, like 100% connected and in love with it, even though I was really happy to have it. So I was like, okay, the next really cool head that I find, I'll buy. And I really couldn't have waited for a better head than the unicorn. I just, for some reason, it stands out among all noun heads for me. And boom, 5 days later, there it was, and I went for it. And I think it's like it's a globally popular head, and it's the reason I think there's like 7 or 8 of them already, because they get FOMO'd a lot, I believe. So I was like, okay, it's not a rare head, but it is the coolest head to me. So I just went for it, and that's the one I'm using as my noun-related PFP.
It's a really beautiful one.
Thank you.
And I was just noticing the similarity with the hair is very similar to sort of your punk in terms of how it's drawn, isn't it? Right, with these kind of weird scraggles.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point.
And I myself am a huge fan of the dual colored glasses. I love the purple pink multi, but this is the first noun where I really noticed that I think this is a yellow orange, right?
the funny thing is that, like I was gonna say, I love the pink kind of mouth area with the greenish shirt, but I'm colorblind, so I see everything probably different. I wouldn't be able to say if the glasses are 100% yellow or not. Like I see a bright, bolder orange, and then maybe a lighter orange leaning towards yellow, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I'd see it too.
Yeah,
And the left noggle here is the same color as the horn, the yellow horn, right? Or do you see those as different colors?
I see them a bit different, but it's probably just a yeah, it's probably just perception.
But let me go back because you said what drew you to Nouns was the simplicity of the design. Were you talking about the design space, the code, or the art, or both, or what did you mean by that?
Both, really. Mostly the code I meant. Um, yeah, mostly the code, but there is something about the art involving the code, and it's how everything is on chain SVG. So it's immutable in that sense, and I loved it. There's some really advanced like compression, decompression, and you know that's the part of the code I didn't get too deep into, but I kind of love that aspect of it. And then I love how the DAO itself is the owner of all the contracts, and how we can kind of continuously upgrade code by repointing implementations to what we want. And it's like a perfect little thing. I couldn't find anything wrong with it, just the veto, but I understood the reason for that. So
Yeah. What so you let's see, you bought this Doom fence, and by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out this this one really has a vibe. That sort of the dark glasses, shirt, and accessory. It really
mhm.
does. It really is a cohesive noun. It doesn't
It
have
is.
like, it's cohesive, and that's not something I notice all the time because you got to match up so many different things. Like, this wouldn't look great with the unicorn colors, or it would look different. But with the fence, there's something sort of
Yeah,
subdued that
like
works.
the brown and the black work together, and the fact that that the black ties in. And like I said, I wasn't in love with the fence head. Like I think there's a bunch of much funner and cooler heads, but it did it did kind of tie together, like you said. Yeah,
What? So this was November here. This is when you first bought in, right? So what are we about? December, about 3 months ago. You've done a lot. I see you sort of all over the place. Um, I spent a lot of time reading about the ZK private voting round that you were a big proponent of. I've also seen you doing Builder DAO stuff. I think you won a round, maybe Panama DAO. Was that you?
that's right. Yeah, you're right.
What? Yeah. What's? Let me ask a question to sort of tie that together. But um, yeah, can you take me through what's been significant in the last 3 months? Have there been any kind of interesting stories or experiments that really changed your thinking, or people you've met because you've had such a sort of diverse and active experience so quickly?
Yeah, I just really went down the rabbit hole. I just like I've been consumed by this. Um, it's probably what I spend most of my time on, to be honest. And like the first thing I did is I really studied the contracts. I did a thread, and this is before I bought the Doom fence. I did a cool thread on how everything works and why I loved it so much, the way it was designed. And then I bought the nouns, and then I went through. I think it was after I bought the nouns that I went through every single proposal. Like I wanted to get a sense for what the history of the stuff that had been built, proposed, what the style and the culture of the DAO was. So I had to like really um, feed myself really quickly to kind of get up to speed. And then I started to try understanding the politics of it all, because I came in at a time where there was some political stuff going on, like the server was being shut down, and I didn't really know why, and you know, and I didn't know what the like different factions within the DAO were, and how like basically what the politics were. So I started asking around a bit, and a lot of people kind of wrote me in private. I got a sense that people were kind of afraid to share their opinion publicly, and it was kind of frustrating, to be honest, to not just be able to get everything said to you and explained up front. It was like people writing me in private, and that did allow me to create a lot of relationships in these past few months, because I've continued those relationships of people who actually cared to try to explain our history, our culture, and the stuff that was happening. But at the same time, I think that was really the reason I started getting interested in private voting. That, and the fact that when I went through the props, I got a feeling that we were overpaying for stuff. So it gave me a bit of a quid pro quo vibe, in the sense that people don't want to say things publicly, and people don't want to vote against props that they maybe don't believe in so much, because they're afraid of repercussions. They're thinking of what's going to happen when they propose their next prop, and they're trying to keep kind of everybody happy. But that's that's inefficient, like suboptimal for the DAO in terms of treasury use and sustainability, etc. So that's what really got me into private voting, and that's another rabbit hole I went through. I've also been consumed by the math behind private voting. I really went down that rabbit hole as well. So I proposed in a discourse post the idea of private voting. It turns out there were some people kind of already thinking about it in the background, and we started chatting, and then we put together the spec, basically, and then
Can I pause?
This thing clicked also.
Sorry,
Excuse
can I
me?
pause you just for a second? What's the name of the prop that was the private voting prop? Or what
name was? Let me go fetch it.
I got it.
It was around like low 200s, I think. Let's see. You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 216. Mm-hmm.
This is with verbs, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And then for this one, you went out and campaigned. I remember hearing you on a space, at least, and I'm sure tweeting about it. So you got pretty active in terms of taking a lead politically, even if maybe this wasn't your prop. I mean, you were very closely aligned with it.
Yeah, like yeah, I was. So the verbs kind of pulled me in to help with spec, writing the spec. So I kind of gave my feedback, etc. And then that's why we ended up speaking on that same space. And I was kind of pushing for this, because I strongly believe the DAO needs it.
Yep.
And also, I just think it's really cool that if the DAO implements it, it serves as this public good for all other DAOs to use as well. So we'll kind of be the first ones to do like a working version of private voting on Ethereum for like a real big DAO and treasury.
Mm-hmm.
No longer a proof of concept, but something that's really kind of helping govern, or being a tool in governing a significant treasury and project.
Seems like the time frame is fund 3 teams. They'd each take 3 months. Funding round is over. end of this month or next month. So you're talking, like
It's over, but yeah, like beginning of March, I think, first couple days.
So still a ways away. It strikes me that there, like you said, there's this like 1% of kind of what we've discovered out there, and there's just so many new things that are going to be opening with voting, kind of positive, negative, and I wonder how conservative versus aggressive Nouns is going to be versus the sub DAOs, like little Nouns, Shark DAO, that kind of thing, and then the builder DAOs in terms of implementing it. Do you think there's going to be widespread agreement to implement it pretty quickly with Nouns, or what's your take on that?
So yeah, so first to give you kind of background on the way this is going to flow. So beginning of March is the deadline for the prop house submissions. So a bunch of ZK teams around the world will be submitting their designs. And then the 3 top teams get a chance to, get payment upfront, basically the 70,000 each. And they have 3 months to develop a proof of concept of what they designed. So we're speaking, we're talking about April, May, June. So beginning of June, we should have those proof of concepts. And then comes like kind of the big discussion, right, that you're referring to. Will there be widespread agreement? I don't think so. Not even close. I think it's a contentious subject. It does change, some significant things in the culture, but I think the pros outweigh the cons. And to be honest, like once we have the designs and proof of concepts, and that's why I thought it was so important for this mandated prop to happen, because like we don't know what's possible yet. We kind of have an idea of what's possible in ZK voting, but we're not 100% sure in what the constraints are, how they're going to play out in different designs. So we need to see the working examples of what it would be like to be able to have a real discussion in the DAO about implementing it or not implementing it. But I agree that even if we come up with an amazing design out of this, it's still going to be a contentious issue. And I do see other DAOs, I do see implementations in other DAOs being a bit more straightforward because there's a bit less at stake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see this play out. Yeah. So, anything else you want to say about ZK, or can we talk about Panama DAO?
Yeah, sure. Let's jump to Panama.
I just love this art. I don't know anything about really the mission or anything, but I just remember looking through the prop house. Actually, let me go there. And I remember being really struck by the art. Can you speak to that? Talk about kind of how that art came to be and what it means?
Yeah, sure. It's so amazing to hear that, by the way, because the funny thing is, like, I love the art. I'm really in love with the art. And I'll tell you the story about it in a second. But some of the founders that I'm working with aren't that convinced. They're like, should we change the art? And I'm kind of pushing in the direction of let's launch with this art and then let's have more Panamanian artists come in and add traits, because we can add traits in the future. And I think we might land in that direction. But by the way, this is like a unfinished art. So now we have them holding objects, and they're objects related to Panamanian culture. So you have like pineapples and different brands of beer, and you have different flags corresponding to the provinces, and you have like soccer balls because soccer's a big sport, and baseball bat and stuff like that. So they're even cooler now. But to give you some background, in Panamanian folklore, there's something called Diablicos Sucios. And what it means is like dirty devils. And actually, when I was a kid in school growing up in Panama, I was a dirty devil. Like I did a dance of this folklore dance, and I was dressed in this black and red, and it had this scary mask on, kind of like a reduced version of the one you're showing right now.
Hmm.
And you use this thing called these instruments called castañuelas, which are like things you hold in your hands, and you see it like in flamenco, where you kind of snap these two pieces of wood together. So it's like the funnest dance in all Panamanian folklore, I think. And the idea was to make the NFTs mimic these diablicos sucios, but we had to give them like a cool spin to be able to make them different enough. So they not only wear like black and red, but they wear all kinds of colors. And yeah, I just really love it.
Yeah, I knew there was going to be a backstory on the kind of cultural meaning about this. I knew that. What what really struck me, I'll tell you, is that it's pixel art ish, but then it's got these like really sharp lines. And there's just
Yeah,
something really kind of interesting about that where it really just like hit me right when I saw it. This art this can't be on chain, right? This is generated layers, or how does this art work?
it's layers. It's SVG layers. So I'm not exactly sure how BuilderDAO does it. Actually, I need to look into that. But I think it's fairly similar to how Nouns does it. What I don't know is how much they compress the SVG, but I think they probably do. And yeah, by the way, the backstory, I can give you the backstory on the DAO if you're interested.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the quick rundown is that I was on the team that drafted the crypto bill that was proposed by an independent representative in Panamanian Congress, and he got it to go through. Like it went through Congress, it was approved, 4 stages of debate, made it to the president's desk, and the president vetoed the bill. So like a year and a half later, which is now recently, the president confirms the veto after this like really long back and forth. And now I think it'll probably be going to the Supreme Court, the Panamanian Supreme Court. But bottom line, it's already been like the law has just been decomposed so many times and redone that it's just this kind of nasty mess. So instead of doing crypto from the top down at the governmental level, we're thinking of infusing crypto into Panama from the bottom up. That's the idea of the DAO. And when Builder DAO was born, I was like, wow, this just makes it so easy to do a one-click deploy of a DAO structure that makes sense for a network state in a country. And yeah, the idea is to bootstrap liquidity, just like Nouns, and focus on in real life public goods. So basically, try to solve problems that the government has not, that have gone unsolved for a while, and that people are kind of desperate to see solved, and proliferate the meme of the Panama DAO that way by calling. I think it'll be a real attention grabber if we're able to do that, and then have people buy the NFTs and continue the process and do bigger and bigger things is our hope, until maybe we like rent or buy property and make like a real small version of a network state at a physical level, and then who knows what can happen. It's a cool experiment at the very least.
Yeah, that describes this entire landscape quite well. I'd agree with you. What if it were up to you, and you were a founder, or I'm sure you're a holder here. I don't own any Panama DAO tokens. I'm not advising
It's
anyone.
not live yet. It's on Gurley, not even on mainnet.
Oh, cool. Um,
Yeah.
but you won this 20 from Builder DAO for incubation, right?
That's right. Yeah. Once the DAO is live on mainnet, then we'll get the ETH.
Yeah. So okay. So here's my question then: is what? Obviously, it'll be a DAO of some kind, so you're not going to be the only decision maker. But what's your funding? What's your going to be your philosophy in terms of how to allocate this first 20 ETH? and what's sort of going to be your approach if you thought anything about it?
Yeah, we have periodic meetings to go over precisely that kind of stuff. The way it's likely going to work is the group of founders. To this point, we have 6. Maybe we'll have 1 or 2 more. We'll get 10% of emissions, kind of like the Nounders model, and everything else will go to auctions. Yeah, we're thinking of maybe doing like payback NFTs to I don't know, like we haven't defined that 100%, but that's roughly how it's going to work. And we will hold veto for hopefully not too long. Once we become decentralized enough, like the founder multi-sig called Los Fundadores, we'll let go of the veto is the idea. And the 20th gives us a huge jumpstart to be able to start doing things very quickly to proliferate the meme. And we'll first do likely what the way we're envisioning it is the founders will probably have to do most of the execution of like the first big in real life public good. And then once we have that out of the way and we already made some noise, we maybe made it onto some news outlets, etc. And by the way, the cool thing about Panama is that it's so small that everybody knows each other kind of country. I mean, it's 4 million people, but still it's tight knit. So you have access to, media outlets and like more easily than you would in a bigger country. So we're going to try to leverage that to make some noise. Once that's out of the way, then we can start thinking of how we structure kind of administration, because we need 1 or more people thinking about this stuff full time. Who's going to be that person or group of people? We don't know yet, because like we need to see how the community receives the dynamic of daily NFT auctions and who become the owners, and who starts, who's interested in proposing being kind of a pod, let's say like an administration pod that is in charge of, that the DAO puts in charge for like a specific amount of time of making shit happen, basically. And that's kind of the way I see it. It might be naive, because like I really have to get a sense for how the dynamic plays out, but that's the plan. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. Sorry, I was on mute. Amazing. I was going to ask how you manage your time across these different domains, because you're learning so much, but you're also executing. You're writing Solidity. You're deploying code. You're meeting all these people. How have you found the time to manage all that?
To be honest, like this is all I do, in terms of work, I guess you could call it. Yeah, like I do crypto investing and stuff like that also, but this is what I do. Like I actually decided to go full-time Web3 about 10 months ago, and I don't like this is it. This is what I do. Like think about cool stuff to build, learning, and trying to make the Web3 ecosystem a better place.
Yep. I'm sharing here as we move along. It looks like you're about to win the 16 Lil Nouns votes. As
Is it 16 or 15?
It's 15 plus we have an extra one delegated, so it's 16.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's over in a minute, I think.
Yep.
Cool.
2 minutes.
Yeah, I got really tight there for a second. We had like a big voting block, basically voting against, and then the rest of the DAO voting for, is what it feels like.
Yeah, it's pretty decent turnout here. 2 big voters against, but everyone else for.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm glad that it was well received by Lil Nouns. I wasn't sure how it was going to be received because I mean I think it's really cool tech for the Lil Nouns DAO as well. It's deployed, it can be kind of re-implemented for this DAO. I'm by the way, I'm a Lil Noun holder as well. I didn't tell you that part. I was a Lil Noun holder for a good chunk of time before I became a Nouner.
hmm,
So yeah, I was curious how the DAO was going to how this DAO, the Lil Nouns DAO, was going to receive it because of the fact that a Lil Nouns distribution could happen, and I think that should be seen as a good thing, to be honest, because it decentralizes ownership of all those Lil Nouns that go out if it ends up getting executed.
yep. Yeah, it's so hard to predict. I mean, it can kind of cut both ways. Like on the one hand, nouns are pretty predictable in that they're not touching their 10% and they're not voting. But on the other hand, I mean that all that can change, in the span of just one one prop, and that could be pretty
Yeah,
harmful. Could be helpful. So, yeah, I don't really know what to think of it. But certainly, I think you had this thing. Nouns Builder is their latest upgrade allows you to airdrop equity out, like basically mint tokens and airdrop that out. And so
I saw.
that's just a massive. I mean, that's a massive unlock. That's just going to change what's possible. Where right now with Lil Nouns, it's kind of hard to get our hands on Lil Nouns to distribute equity, so we kind of been paying out an ETH. So I think that's going to be a
Yeah,
major sort of governance shelling point.
yeah, indeed.
Um, Wanted to go back. I was sort of taking notes about kind of your journey here. I wanted to see if you could help me fill in if I missed anything. But you when you joined, you kind of read all the code, so you kind of understand nouns at its bones. You read every single proposal, so you read like 200 proposals.
Yeah, I went through every single one. I didn't read every single word in every single one, but I really got a sense for what each one meant, and I kind of classified them. And this was before I knew that Maddie had made this really cool tool. I think to kind of facilitate that. But I think it's still good that I did that.
For sure. Did you develop like a your own kind of tagging or classification, or is it just kind of in your mind, or did you produce it like a spreadsheet?
I have a tweet for this, so I have a tweet that goes, and what I did is I handpicked the first of not every kind, but like the first of its kind. For example, I was like, okay, this is the first proposal that got that wasn't unanimous, that had a vote against. Um, I highlighted stuff like the fact that the Budweiser noun kind of goes against the current. I just kind of handpicked like cool info that I noticed, and I made notes of that, and then I made this tweet.
You got to share that tweet.
Actually, sure, I'll share you the first nouns tweet. I'll share you that tweet, and then I did another tweet for Lil Nouns. I went into how Lil Nouns works and how it relates to nouns as well, and those tweets did well. They were interesting. I'll share them later.
Awesome. One thing you talked about here is how you spent a lot of time creating relationships. Um, that's sort of kind of I think an under discussed aspect of the game of nouns. Um, can you talk a bit about that? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've developed friendships kind of across the nouniverse. Um, yeah, can you speak to how what's made you successful at that, or open to that, or how that's worked so well for you?
Um, yeah. So Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I'm not like in real life, I am kind of outgoing extrovert a bit, but I'm not that social. It's weird because I don't love being in mass crowds and stuff like that. So I'm not political. I hate having to ask people to vote a certain way and stuff like that. So so it that kind of describes like my basis, I guess. But the people that contacted me, they were like, I was asking kind of deep questions about the culture and the politics because I really wanted to get a sense for why people weren't speaking out loud. And a lot of the relationships I made were just these people that wrote me, and then we continued talking. And then I've had maybe I don't know 5 or 6 calls with some of them, um, not each like with 5 or 6 different people that of the people that contacted me, and I created some cool relationships that I actually look forward to meeting Nouners and little Nouners in real life. Like I look forward to the day when we can do something together. So yeah, I'm happy for that.
What's um what's made you so successful
At what?
at Nouns?
I don't know if I call myself successful yet. I need to build more stuff before I could say that. You know, like this prop would be a big step in that direction. I think because I see it as something that can be like some people have been like, yeah, but how is this useful, right? Like I feel like that might be a bit myopic. Like I want to show how powerful this stuff could be. So you know, when we do that, when we do private voting, I'm actually going to propose. I joined forces with a ZK research team, and we're going to be proposing one of the designs, a design for that prop house round. You know, if that goes through and this goes through, then I feel like I maybe start having a bigger effect on the DAO. And then what you know what has me on this path? I would just say like two things. Like I'm really interested at the technical level, haven't stopped studying, and at the same time, there's something about governance that I didn't know that jived so well with my interests that has that's driving me. Like I'm just so interested in how the science of on-chain governance works and the fact that we are in a really privileged position to be able to be inventing the tools and inventing the methodologies of the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like when you're inventing the tools, in a way, you're inventing the future. Sort of one leads to the
Yeah,
other.
yeah, indeed, indeed. What about you? What do you do? You know, how do you fill up your time?
Um, I think a lot like you in that I'm just obsessed with Nouns, the whole ecosystem. So I've been putting a lot of time recently to start monetizing it a little better. But yeah, I've been creating a lot of content. Um, my kind of my thing that I believe that nobody else really believes is that Nouns is a lot like a video game. Um, and so, just like people talk about crypto gaming, and like Axie Infinity and these kind of P2E games, I actually think Nouns is the game. Just people haven't realized it yet. So yeah, I've been like you. I'm super interested in governance, and I mean, I share your thesis exactly that Nouns is on the forefront of progress and just what these DAOs are capable of, and there are just so many novel issues that I can just see how important they are to capital formation, deployment, public goods, all these things. So it's just absolutely fascinating to me, and yeah, I've been thinking about it sort of like playing a video game, and I'm just trying to kind of play better and meet friends and explore explore intellectual rabbit holes, have
Mhm.
fun. I've been doing this streaming, just having kind of long form conversations with folks, and it's just, man, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an interesting perspective the way you put it. I mean, I hadn't thought about it so explicitly that way, but I have thought about the fact that, like, what are we doing all this for? Like, these avatars collaborating and fighting with each other to do this stuff. Like, why does it really matter, right? And I think in the end, like you said, it really kind of is a game, right? And it's and I think, like, the kind of, at an individual level, the purpose of the game is to just be stimulated intellectually. Like, does it really matter? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, but at least we're all individually being stimulated, and that's kind of one of the aspects we search for in life. Um, and that's why I feel like we're lucky to be a part of this, because it's really filling those intellectual holes, those curiosity holes that a lot of us have.
Yeah, for sure. Let me play you this. I don't know. You sound like you're about my age, but I grew up with Super Mario 3, and I just spent like an afternoon building this quick little video. So I'm gonna show this. Can you see this on your screen?
That's that's really cool. Yeah, and I spent my childhood doing the same stuff. So yeah, we must be close in age.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what do nouns people do? Like, we hit some buttons on our keyboard, we do some calls, we either write some
Mhm.
code or produce some art, but it's like there are these levels, and you think of like that mushroom level where you get this free gift, or really the level where it was that spade card, and you had the three layers, the top, middle, bottom, that kind of, if they lined up, you got that reward. There's just something
Mhm.
so similar about nouns. And if you do good work in nouns, you get paid, in real money. And it just, to me, it's such an obvious game that we're all playing, like all of us who are involved in nouns.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like if I were like, I try to explain this stuff to normies, I guess, and it's just impossible. You got to feel it. You got to feel it to understand why we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll show you another thing I was working on this morning. Just that, like, why do I do this? I'm not really getting paid for this, but it's so much fun. This Last Supper painting by Da Vinci.
Hmm, hmm.
So, so I just took our little nouns. We own 15 nouns, and it's just fun. Put our noun heads in this painting, and it's like, this is the Judas character right here, and just
Hmm.
this crystal ball looks so funny as Judas looking at Jesus here.
And the steak, yeah, yeah. It's crazy what the Nounders created. Never could have expected all the kind of fractals that came out of it.
Yeah. When we were looking at your two nouns, your doom noun and your unicorn, Lil Noun's bit on both of those. You probably
I
remember.
remember. Yeah,
About
I
bit
do.
us. And man, I wish we had either of those nouns. I'd trade most of these for a year or two. Um, but geez, I'll tell you, when I was putting this together, our stapler noun, I think, is just beautiful.
Yeah, it's prime. It's prime.
I mean, that is a
I love
beautiful.
it. Very cohesive. Very, very cohesive. Yeah, I remember when I won the second one, I went in the Lil Nouns chat. I think somebody said like, "Hey, congrats," and I was like, "Thank you," and they were like, "Now let us win."
Yeah, that sounds
And
about.
I was like, "Okay, hands off. It's your turn." And then I think you won the next one.
That's right.
Maybe it was you. I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody in there.
Yeah, that's a great group of people. Hey, let me I want to make this card for you here. Like if we're looking at nouns as a game, um let's see if we could kind of summarize maybe into 3 bullet points what advice you give for how to play nouns. Think we can do
How
that?
to play nouns.
Yeah, or like, there's a million different ways to play. Everyone's got their own style. So we could talk about how you play or advice, but I want to do some kind of infographic card.
Yeah. So my gameplay strategy, if you want to call it that, is just gonna is constantly evolving. I feel, but at this moment, um, I went into this in my nouns delegate kind of philosophy post that I recently did. Like there's kind of two types of nouners. Do you want like should it be short?
Oh no, I mean, take all the time you need. I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Yeah, there's two types of nouners. There are the nouners that are okay with paying the entry ticket into the experiment or the show and not getting any ETH, and they kind of see the treasury as this black hole where their money goes in, and in exchange they get to participate in the experiment, and they're okay with that, and that's cool. And then there's the second type of nouner who buys a noun to participate in the experiment, but also realizes like, hey, I can get paid to build stuff that I enjoy and that are making my own ecosystem a better place. And they are like benefiting benefiting financially or economically for being for building the stuff they build, for being in this ecosystem. So those are the two ways to play the game. Simplified version of uh
And before you bought, were you firmly in the second camp, or have you evolved on this?
no, I wasn't in the second camp. I wasn't in the first camp either. I wasn't in any camp. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was definitely buying to participate in the experiment. That was like but I don't know if I was thinking I'm okay with never seeing my money again, and I just want to watch other people do stuff, and for the meme to proliferate, and that's it. Like, but I wasn't type A or type B. I was maybe somewhere in the middle, let's say. And something else I would say about I went into this in my post as well, but I don't know. Are you speaking? 'Cause you might be muted. Are you waiting for me?
Oh no, yeah, keep going. I want to read this post.
Keep
By the way,
going.
can you DM me the post so I can read it?
Sure. So I owe you the 3 Twitter threads on that post. I'll do that. Yeah. So regarding your noun value, which is another part of the game, I feel like what we're doing now, the kind of founding strategy, which or the founding model has not been proven to work yet. And the model is proliferate the meme and more people will want to buy nouns. And I, like I said, I think it has not been proven to work. What I think does work or would work is, okay, proliferate, like if the purpose is to make the treasury sustainable long term and ever growing and ever powerful to do cooler stuff, bigger stuff, then you need two things to happen. You need noun prices to go up, and to do that, you don't proliferate the nouns meme. You focus proliferation to builders. And I'm not talking about programmers. I'm talking about builders in general. People wanting to do work and interested in participating in this experiment and willing to pay for the entry ticket, the entry price. And that's how you get noun prices to go up. And that's kind of one income. And then I think Nouns DAO needs a second income, which we're not focused on now, which it's kind of happening and we're not noticing it, but it needs to happen much stronger. And it is, okay, if I'm going to be doing mass proliferation of the brand, then how is that making me more sustainable long term? And so we need to find a way to monetize in our ever growing popularity. Like, I know that Nouns is compared to Hello Kitty. I think 4156 has said this a few times. Like, yeah, we can be the Hello Kitty, right? Like they sell, I don't know how many billions of dollars a year. Like, yeah, if we're gonna do that, and we wanted to aid aid our sustainability, then let's do it in a way that we benefit as a DAO economically from the brand growing. How you do that, I don't know. The thing is, the brand is CCO, so it's a tough call. But one way you do it is all these sub DAOs are paying back the DAO with value. What do you do with that value? How do you extract value? That's a good question, but you need basically a secondary source of income. Like auction prices are not going to be. No, that's actually the wrong way to say that. You need your mass proliferation to give you to benefit the DAO economically. It can't just go to waste because it's not going to go to auction prices, I think. And this is like a really, at least in my time here, I've never heard anybody say this. I think it might be a controversial way of seeing things. Maybe not too much, because a lot of Nounders like that post. And I thought they maybe wouldn't, and they like retweeted it and stuff. But that's kind of the way I see things.
Do you see then the Nouns treasury ever coming to an equilibrium or just growing kind of infinitely? In other words, why does Nouns need an income? For example, I compare it to like the meme of Santa Claus, right? Which is decentralized meme that a lot of people kind of, dress up as Santa or make a movie about Santa Claus, and it generates a lot of economic activity. But, the meme of Santa Claus doesn't collect any royalties or have any treasury. It just sort of
right.
out there and it self-perpetuates.
Right. That's a really good comparison. Yeah. That's the way it's working now. But at the same time, we have a lot of people complaining about why, yeah, we're in a bear market, et cetera. But there's like no clear path to auction prices increasing. And if auction prices ever decrease and you spend quicker than auction price income, basically, you are draining your treasury, right? So that's that's the worry of a chunk of people in the DAO, and I think it's a valid thing to be worried about. So what alternative do you have?
You think the treasury would go to zero?
Well, if you spend faster than auction income, then by definition, yeah, you tend to zero.
But there's a lot of things that would happen before it actually went to zero. And like, I mean, Lil Nouns is going through this right now where it's really hard to get props passed because people are worried the treasury's going to zero. So
Yeah.
as a result, basically we're not buying nouns, we're not funding huge
Mhm.
build projects, and it's just kind of at an equilibrium.
Yeah, I mean, but is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I guess it's at an equilibrium that you wouldn't want, right? You want to be at an equilibrium where you're spending a lot and you have a lot of income, right, from auctions, and
Yeah.
that way and that way you're building all the stuff you want to build. Yeah. So yeah, so will we reach equilibrium? I think we will. Where that equilibrium is going to be, I'm not sure. And and like I said in my post, a lot of the stuff I'm saying today is just based on the information I have today. I might change my opinion, but um, because I already have coming into the DAO, like I first saw it as we're kind of like day one. I was like, yeah, this is kind of a business. Like book value matters. I thought. Then I realized no, book value doesn't matter. Like there's no such thing as book value. We're talking about NFTs. So they're not ERC20s. There's no such thing as book value. Every NFT is different, has a different on-chain history, has a different provenance, has a different set of traits, you know. So forget about book value. It's not really a bit like you can't see it like a business. But you can see it like you have spending and you have income. And is the income I have growing or at the same rate of my spending? Is there a path to making my income grow in time instead of go down in time? You know, those kind of questions I ask myself are what make me kind of think of this two-sided income, like
You know,
efficient proliferation basically to builders, and then yeah. Mhm.
yeah, I totally agree with you about basically anyone new to nouns or anyone participating in nouns, you're going to change your mind a lot if you're smart. If you don't change your mind, it's probably because I don't know. At least I've had a lot of experiences where I've learned harsh lessons and then I've looked at problems in a totally different way. Um, one thing I'm sort of exploring now is staking, and it sort of hit me like a brick. Um, but do you have an opinion on staking ETH and kind of what sort of kind of allocation nouns DAOs generally should kind of aim towards? My basic reasoning is, you know, staking is basically providing security to the network of Ethereum. If network continues to prosper and succeed, staking is sort of like it's like an infinite income stream almost if you can keep the staked ETH. And it almost feels like it makes every DAO, if you have enough, if you have a little bit of staked ETH, it makes your DAO kind of default alive. That sort of meets that concern about, well, you go down to zero, everything plummets, and then you can't fund anything. If you hold staked ETH, you're going to get income as long as Ethereum is running.
Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of putting ether to use to generate more ether, especially if you're not using it. At the same time, there's smart contract risk, like a lot of unknowns. So maybe staking like a third of the treasury, especially if you have no plans of dipping into it that far or that deep, um, I'm okay with. I think it's a good idea for the reasons you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to get that together in Lil Nouns. Um, yeah, and obviously you want to be decentralized. You definitely have smart contract risk, different centralization vectors. But I'm thinking that eventually there'll be an on-chain way to basically deal with all those and get like a decentralized basket of staking derivatives that are pretty solid.
Right. Yeah, like we've been doing everything in Lido, and like two props passed recently doing more in Lido, I believe. and there were some questions. I think 41 was the one asking like, hey, why don't we try rocket pool? And yeah, I haven't looked into why we're doing only Lido, but yeah, I think decentralizing the staking pools is a good idea. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, I really appreciate this kind of dichotomy here that you set out. There's sort of two ways to play the game. Because I think you also do see that at Lil Nouns. And actually a third way for at least for Lil Nouns is the price is, $300, $200. You have a lot of people who are willing to do that just for the art, who just don't care about the governance at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Less so obviously at Nouns auction prices.
Yeah, the art is awesome for little. It's so fucking cute. I mean, I have like a soft spot for the little watermelon. I just love that one, and I got one of those.
Oh, nice. Did you use Low Block Party or did you buy it off secondary or how'd you get it? The watermelon.
The watermelon I bought off secondary, I believe. I think I minted a couple directly, or not minted. I'm auction, one auctions.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a fresh one.
The watermelon looks even better on little Nouns than Nouns, I think. We have a big version of the watermelon, right? I think I've seen it.
Yeah.
Are all the head? Are they all the same?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
The heads are the same. The glasses are much bigger on the lulls.
Did you guys do inclusion of? I think in celebration of the 1 year anniversary, did we include new heads? I think we did, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember? We did, right? Did you guys do that as well?
Yes, we did.
Awesome. Very cool.
And it was funny because I was building Low Block Party, which is like a FOMO, but for lils that let you kind of predict the head. And by the way, here for viewers, this is you, right? At OX Digital Oil on Twitter. I want to make sure people can follow you. I think this is you. Yep. At
It
OX
is, yeah.
Digital Oil. Go follow Digital Oil. But what I was saying about Low Block Party is, yeah. So one of the first users, as we were kind of building it in Discord, was Madrovsky, who designed the index card head. And he said he was just staring at this for hours because he really wanted to mint a little index card. So we adopted all the art that the Nowners did.
Yeah, it's amazing. Who was behind the art? Was it Wojcicki or you or?
He did the index card. It was a whole we did a whole stream about this. It was an offshoot of the Discord, and then it turned into props. And so he ended up getting paid. It's one of the wildest stories. So he just drew the index card, right? And do you know what that one looks like?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it in macro.
Yeah, this index card. So he just drew that in Discord basically, and then a Discord community kind of curated it, and then eventually they went on chain, and then he ended up getting paid 15 ETH. 15 ETH. And then he used that 15 ETH to actually buy the first noun index card. So he ended up dumping it all.
Cool.
And yeah.
Very cool.
And then he and I just won a prop house round for streaming to do keep nouns weird. Yeah, right here. We just won this yesterday.
Oh, congrats! Nice.
Thanks, man. I got to say it's irrationally difficult to win these small prop house rounds. Like the amount of time that you have to spend campaigning to get a prop like this passed is just exorbitant compared to what you actually get. But it's a lot of fun and you learn a lot. And yeah, we're gonna do 5 episodes. Kind of
Yeah, I mean, you have 40 competing, right?
What's that? Oh, sorry, I missed what you said there.
Sorry, the audio is getting a bit cut up. Yeah, I think there's a delay in the audio. I was saying that it's tough when there's 40 different props competing to get attention for sure.
Yeah. And that's what I'd say. One thing, kind of a macro response I have to you, and a lot of people I think who talk about the inefficiency of nouns or how basically how props are bloated or overfunded. I think it's certainly true where that happens. But I think the other aspect that's kind of baked into the cake is Nouns gets a lot of work basically for free. Like a lot of people contribute to building out these props that never get paid. And even
Yep.
if it's just writing something or like, hey, here's an example. Is this person just took this movie and just made it into gifs that anyone can use? Like that's of some value for sure. And the DAO ends up getting that for free because this one's not going to get paid, or maybe it will in the future. But you get what I'm saying? Is it's like there's
Yeah,
inefficiency, but then there's also all the free stuff.
yeah. And I think a lot of the free stuff maybe slips through the cracks. If the paid stuff does, like there's a lot of good stuff to rescue there, but who's doing that, right?
Yeah. But I mean, also I assume I can use these memes pretty easily. These GIFs.
Yeah. If you sift through it and you put in the time, then why not?
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's been a real pleasure having you, Digital Oil. Really enjoyed kind of digging into your career as a nouns builder. Let's confirm that your prop passed Lil Nouns, and I think it did. Yeah, you are good to go here. So you're going to get our 16 Lil Noun votes for Prop 238 functional props, which
Awesome.
we went over.
I'm honored.
Yeah. When's that prop end? Make sure we
About 3. We gotta get some water. Be right back.
yeah. So it is on chain now, ends February 22nd, 2:30 my time. So that is
3 more days.
3 days. Yep. You got 6 votes. I think it was 4 votes when I started. Plus you got the 16 little noun votes. That puts you about a third of quorum or so, a little more.
Yeah, and I think I got Nounsel. I believe I
Oh,
won Nounsel today.
great. That'll be another, what is that, 10 votes?
I think about.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, wish you all the best. Keep in touch. Yeah, is there anything else you want to share? Anything we missed?
No, I think we went over a lot of good stuff. You asked some really good questions, and I appreciate your interest in speaking to me and in really diving deep in the stuff you asked me. I take inspiration from your inspiration.
Hey, it was a real pleasure. I appreciate having you on such short notice. Keep in touch. Good luck with your prop, and we'll
For
see you
sure.
again.
All righty. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.